One, two, oh, sorry.
What I'm telling you is that
There's the music. You know what that means. It means
hump
I
day.
need to readjust this shot. Look, I'm cutting off my own head here,
Hey,
Tony.
you know, what's that play?
There
Alice
we
in
go.
Wonderland,
There we
off
go.
with the head, off with the
with
head.
the head. I'm producer
All I
Chris.
think
This is
of.
Tony P. And this is the Live Zone Primetime. Thank you so much to everyone tuning in tonight. And thank you to everyone who tuned in last night. I just want to say, if you were watching last night and if you were in the Zoom room, because we had a lot of people in the Zoom room. In case you don't know, the Zoom room is when you scan that little QR code here on the bottom of the screen, below Tony P, if he can point to it right now.
Oh, you know what?
This,
there's a John Madden telestrator. I'll go like this, right
but
there.
That QR code is how you can join the Zoom room, and joining the Zoom room is how you end up on the air with us on this stream. And last night we had a lot of people in that Zoom room while the president was speaking. Unfortunately, we couldn't break away from the president to kind of talk to you and find out how you felt about the State of the Union. But what this show, what makes it so unique and what makes it so different than, more your linear TV news broadcasts is that we have that ability to kind of get real-time reaction to not only the stories that we're talking about, but the stories that are out in the community, in the country. Right. Especially on a night like last night. We did the same thing on Sunday night with the snow. So I just want to say a quick shout out and thank you to everyone who tuned in, who joined the Zoom room, and we're sorry that we didn't get to you.
We broke some records, I think, last night, and I think
definitely had higher viewership than we do on a normal night.
Right, and again, it wasn't a normal night.
Us. Maybe people wanted to tune in and see the president of the United States. They don't want to look and see us all the time.
Hey, look,
I get it.
I'll say it's because of us, but I think overall, I think this is what I love about this show is again that open kind of open form. It's kind of like a what's the word I'm looking for? A focus group on an actual show. We get to talk to people. It's real. It's human interaction, and I think hopefully next year we could do like a Manning cast potentially next year.
See, that's what I was pushing for.
And
that's what I was pushing
we can bring people in. Who wants to hear from us?
Talk about
Let's hear from the people.
Did you see that? Democrats not standing up.
Right, what do you think of that?
What do you think of that? Call you in.
Actual real people, like regular people, not just pundits or people like us that are giving analysis or opinions.
You don't need to hear from me. We want to hear from you.
Because the speeches impact actual people and their real lives and kitchen table issues. We want to hear those issues because that's how people learn, whether they be in politics or in our business, whatever it is.
That is the truth. In the meantime, though, Tony P., how was your day?
It was not too bad, I'll tell you, my friend. After last night, I didn't get in till about probably 12:45.
Okay,
and then
the midnight oil.
And then I decided to film a couple of cooking videos because I had food that was going bad. So I had salmon at 2:30 in the morning and did not get to bed literally till about 4. So had a late start to my day. I had to clean the house a little bit. Got into my office around, I'd say 12, 1 o'clock, and then worked most of the day. And then here with you tonight. Again, I kind of have like a 12 to 11 as opposed to a 9 to 5.
Yeah,
so, and I'm still trying to I want to be that really early riser, but my schedule just doesn't allow it.
It's not easy.
I have to either give myself grace, Chris. I don't know. Again, audience members, comment on this. Should I just give myself the grace and just accept that I don't have a normal timeline anymore, or is there a way I can break this cycle? Is there a way I can do it?
I wish I had an answer for you. It's not easy.
It's not cut and dry, right?
No, it's not. And I've been on a time-adjusted schedule for a long time, and I know a lot of people out there are as well.
Right.
And you just have to, kind of get it where you can, as they say. You got to get
it where you can. And enjoy
Listen,
the intricacies.
I don't need 8 hours of sleep a night, and I imagine you're probably not getting that right now.
What's your number? You need, what's your optimal number?
It's my optimal number is 6.
6, okay, 6.
6 would be great.
Not bad.
Obviously, there are we could spend all night.
But how was your
that.
day, my friend? Before
my day, it was great as always. Every day is great.
I love it.
Every day
is a gift, and every meal's a feast. A good friend of mine once said.
That's what I love to hear. Let's dive in. Let's head out to Loudoun County, where we're starting off this 9 o'clock hour talking about the debate over school safety in Loudoun County, a debate over school safety. And I know that sounds odd because school safety is a priority for parents, teachers, and law enforcement. We know that. But earlier tonight, the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office held a community conversation at John W. Tolbert Jr. Elementary School. The Sheriff's Office is proposing a 4-year plan to place school resource officers in every public elementary school. Tonight, residents and parents had the chance to learn more about that proposal and ask some questions. And some parents did have some questions about this plan, and not everyone seemed to support it. I want you to listen in. This is a little bit of a longer clip from that meeting that just wrapped up about 20 minutes ago. Take a listen.
I know that in this country, there's only 14% of elementary schools that have SROs in action. And so I wanted to know, what are you using to develop this program, since there's so little anything out there in terms of data?
I can take that one as well. So and I answer this because SROs fall under my chain. So a couple things. One is we do look at national best practices. So SROs in elementary schools is an increasing area. There's not a lot of statistical research out there specific to SROs in elementary schools because it is a growing area. Loudoun County Sheriff's Office, we pride ourselves on being on the front of a lot of emerging areas. This is one of them. What we do learn, though, is we learn things specifically like how do we mitigate some of the issues where SRO programs have gone sideways in other areas. And that is what the role of the SRO is. That is critical. When you look at successful SRO programs and SRO programs where you do have issues, it is generally around what that role is and clarifying the role, which is why the MOU with LCPS is and has been a high priority topic for a long time of what do our SROs in the schools do, what is in for them and what is out for them. And the number one bright line is that we are not involved in enforcement of school rules and the administration of discipline.
Can I just say, my concern with this is that Loudoun County Public Schools has an outstanding reputation for using best practices and evidence-based approaches and methodologies. And essentially what I'm hearing you're saying is that we are going to be an experiment, and it's going to be an experimental kind of intervention because it can't be based on data and research that has been proven. So that is my concern with this idea. On top of it, where you've said yourselves that we have a very safe county. We're one of the safest counties in the country. So what can we even hope to learn from using LCPS as a model, given there isn't even a demand in place other than these terrifying, this could happen to your child, which we can talk about that with anything. And I consider those examples fear-mongering because, as we know, the existence, I think where we're headed, LCPS has an outstanding reputation, our schools are incredible, and I do not want us going down a path where we're trying something out for the rest of the country in a model that we can't even learn from because our safety is off the charts. Thank you very much.
Sure. Yeah, I can address some of that. So to the point of research, there is research out there in SRO programs generally about reducing fights, better weapon detection on school property, things like that. The other side has to do with the discipline and the disparate discipline. And I've addressed that because that is an area we do not want to be involved in, and that's how we stay away from that. When it comes to the SROs in elementary schools, you're right. These are rare events. I call it a black swan event. It's something that is rare, unpredictable, but it's highly devastating, right? And when you're dealing with those things, you basically have to look at what is reasonable for us to do to prevent, right? So I use the example of life insurance. I have a lot of life insurance. I hope I don't ever need it. I'm worth more to my wife dead than I am alive, is what I say. I sleep with one eye open. But that's a joke. But the idea is, for things that are rare but highly devastating events, there's a level that it is responsible to pay attention to. It's why people have flood insurance and all that type of stuff where there's something damaging. So,
incredibly robust security system. So that level of threat
sure.
that you're talking about is being addressed through the AI, through the officer, the
Sure.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm losing the list. But we've already talked about that. There's a list of measures already in place that are incredibly robust. And again, in this very safe county, I don't know how you then justify the use of SROs when there is very little data to support them as a success or effective.
Sure. So again, the goal is not to fearmonger, but when you look at places that have these events, one of the consistent things that come up is we never thought it would happen here. So when we look at it and go, what's the level of response we can have, right? There's a level that is, I would say, kind of beyond ridiculous, right? So we go to the ridiculous and say, we are not going to put, full TAC teams in parking lots of every school to just make sure that would be ridiculous. I'm not going to have $1 billion of life insurance. There's a level that just doesn't make sense. But as we look across the nation and we see these incidents increasing, and we see where our middle schools are getting pulled in different places, and the workload is increasing at elementary schools, we can say, hey, what is a reasonable thing that we believe is reasonable here? Putting an SRO in there. And to the point of systems, that's the whole point of the system. We want all that. The security system needs all of those things. Each one adds its own level of value. But not having an armed, trained, connected person that can respond immediately is a critical vulnerability that we see that is within our power to address here in Loudoun County.
But I want to add to that, we actually, the schools do have a great reputation. We actually work very well with their security over there, okay? This is just an added level of security that we can do. And I don't understand why you wouldn't. And when you're talking about excellence in service, we too have excellence in service. And that's why we received a model recognition by NASRO for the school security, school resource officer program that we have. So excellence on both sides. And we're always looking to strive to be the best that we can be for the community that we serve.
So that was just a portion of that meeting with the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office and parents and concerned residents over this plan, this 4-year proposal to put school resource officers in every public elementary school. And Tony P., obviously this is one of those subjects that, like he said, like insurance, you hope you never need it, but it's there in case you do. Again, I'm no expert here. I struggle to see the downside. I understand parents saying that the schools are already safe. What will this add? But also at the same time, what does it hurt?
I'll take the downside first, because I sort of see where some of the parents are coming from. First of all, potentially, could there be some blurring of the lines into discipline? Again, both officers, said,
we have seen examples of that.
Oh, yes. Again, whether it be disparate, again, there's a lot of there's many situations across the country of racial bias and how that punishment is levied and distributed, all those type of things. So that's one thing, of course, if they're going to do this, they really should pay attention to, because you don't want to have disparate punishment and any type of bias in terms of that nature. I think a lot of parents also feel for younger students, having police officers on campus like that could potentially make things a little bit more uptight for students, could signal, is something going to be happening, or is there an issue here, or is the area that I've been in for so many years that didn't have an officer not safe anymore? So I think that initial issue is a part of it too. Right, I think that's a part of it as well. Could that impact cohesion in the school or friendships or how students interact? Maybe. So I think those are some very legitimate issues that parents are bringing up. In the back of my mind, we did the story a couple of weeks ago with Woonton High School and Montgomery County, the horrible shooting and multiple occasions of violence that happened in almost a week, I would say, in that school. And the decision, okay, should there be metal detectors? Should that go into elementary schools now and middle schools? I think in Loudoun County, the DMV, there must be some type of recognition of that, where they are now saying we may need to have this on a elementary and middle school level, because we don't want to be another county that was left flat-footed in the event of school violence. We're seeing it. I mean, we've seen it throughout the years, the horrendous school shootings that have taken so many
And you heard him
kids.
say that the one thing
So I
they
think that's
hear
a
all
big
the time
issue
is
as well.
that they never thought it would happen here.
Exactly. So like, there's compelling reasons for parents to be nervous. I also think not wanting to be caught flat-footed on the part of Loudoun County. They are the safest. We've heard that before, and then just horrendous, awful tragedy comes. So I think we want to prevent that as well.
We'll have more on this story tonight at 10 here on Fox Local. We want to get to the other story we're following tonight, and that involves the ongoing cleanup efforts on the Potomac River. D.C. Water says significant progress has been made in clearing a more than 50-foot rock and debris dam that has complicated efforts to repair the damaged Potomac interceptor. It's now been 5 weeks since more than 1 million gallons of raw sewage began spilling into the Potomac, although officials say an overflow has not occurred since February 8th. Earlier tonight, D.C. Water officials held their own community meeting. Earlier today, though, we got an update from officials. They say 14 pumps are now on site, providing more than 150 million gallons per day of capacity. That's what's keeping wastewater out of the Potomac. We're told about 45 feet of the rock and debris dam that crews unexpectedly found down there has now been removed, with roughly 8 to 10 feet to go. That is going to be a really big deal, because once that is done, they can move on to finishing the emergency repair and eventually a permanent solution.
we'll have the emergency repair will be done. And we will be able to move on to sort of the second phase, which is that longer term rehabilitation that we are going to accelerate to rehabilitate more than 2,700 linear feet of this section of the Potomac Interceptor. That's part of the work that was planned to start this summer.
So officials say they had EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin at the site for a tour today. But for more on the cleanup efforts, tonight's meeting, Potomac Riverkeepers Network President Betsy Nicholas joins us once again live. Betsy, thanks so much for joining us once again.
Happy to be here.
Betsy, were you able to make it to that meeting, or was someone from Potomac Riverkeepers at that DC Water meeting tonight, just out of curiosity?
Yes, our water quality manager, Evan Quinter, was there. I was not able to make it, but we had a pretty constant text stream between us.
Can you, I am not familiar with what came out of it. Were there any major new developments that you learned about?
Not really in terms of new developments. I guess we're glad that DC Water is finally reaching out to the communities, but boy, did it take a long time for that to get started. And I can tell you, we have been just flooded with questions from people on everything from the plan to what's happening next. And some of it we just simply don't know on our end. So DC Water talked about the plan, talked about the remediation. One thing that I found concerning was that the remediation seems to focus only at the immediate area of the spill overflow, or really the rupture in the pipe, and the pollution, the sewage, raw sewage that got directly on the ground and is now into the canal. But unfortunately, the area of impact to the river is much larger. So we're going to follow up and talk to them about that and see if we can get some more clear understanding of how to expand this restoration of that ecosystem so that it really covers the entire area of impact, not just the area where the rupture occurred.
In terms of the immediate fixing of that rupture site, the more right in the moment type of stuff, how do you feel the progress has been from DC Water and other officials to remediate the immediate situation? Do you feel it's been done up to par and standard, or there's some potential areas of improvement to help with the rupture itself and also making sure communities are protected from it happening again at that more exact site?
In terms of immediate response, I think they did a good job. It was really rough conditions for a number of reasons, but we had that crazy ice storm here, and people were out there around the clock working on it. So we're glad to see all of that restoration and work out there. One thing that I think we all collectively in this region learned is if it says flushable wipe, it is not. Please don't put those down your toilets, because we had an additional 600,000 gallons of sewage spill on Super Bowl Sunday because a lot of people were home and watching that, and people were putting those things down the toilet, and it clogged up one of the bypass pipes. I think yeah, I know, pretty scary, right?
That's crazy.
So yeah, unfortunately, we've been talking about poop a lot recently on my end of things, but it is something we want to keep away from human contact. And I do think that DC Water has done a good job of the immediate fixes. I think we need to dig in a lot more on the longer term planning and what that's going to involve. And I would say overall communication's been sparse with the communities and public on this. I understand they're focusing on the immediate dangers and problems, but right now it's time to really get out there and share information with the communities. Rivers are dynamic, right? They kind of do their own thing a little bit. So we're going to have changing conditions. We've already seen our testing and water quality monitoring ups and downs of the bacteria levels, because we got snow melt and ice melt and rain, and those all kicked it up a little bit and washed it downstream. That's going to continue to happen for some time. So one of the biggest important things we can have is daily monitoring, checking so that people can safely get out on the water and kayak and row, swim, all of those various things, especially as it starts to get warmer. But there are people out there right now who want to row and kayak. I'm just not one of them. I need a little bit more warm weather.
Understood. And according to Josh Rosenthal, who was out there, the director of DC's health department said on March 2nd, the district will be lifting its advisories that recommend against boating in the water, fishing in the water, walking pets near the water. The last time we chatted was right when some of the finger pointing had started involving the president, Governor Westmore, and more of those local elected leaders. Since then, has the federal intervention been helping?
I think so. I think I think the finger pointing has calmed down, at least for now, and I hope it stays that way so that we can really focus on the Potomac River and the communities that live around it and depend on it. That's the focus here, not who's at fault, because ultimately the pipe collapsed. And that's really 60 years of perhaps underinvested infrastructure that led to that. So right now, it seems like the federal intervention has at least gotten all the different jurisdictions in the DMV area here working together. And we hope that continues. Really, that's the way we're going to solve this issue and get people back out on the river, enjoying it safely, and restoring this beautiful area, this beautiful section of the river. One of my favorite places to go whitewater rafting.
Mine too. And as Chris mentioned, there has been that date of lifting of this guidance of not being able to go in the water or really interact with it. Do you think, given at this timeline, winter into spring, do you feel that it's too quick to determine that? And are there certain measures that people should take when this guidance is lifted to assess for themselves if they should actually go into the water and do it safely?
I'm not a public health professional, so I don't know for sure if I could make that call. It seems a little soon. Maybe a few more weeks of data might be helpful. But if we issue proper guidance along with lifting it, I think things could be okay, coupled with daily monitoring. So people know, hey, if we have a higher bacteria day, you can still get out if you take certain precautions and make sure that you're safe.
Is there a fear that this is, I apologize for the pun, but the tip of the iceberg here, that this years of maybe, like you said, neglected maintenance or deferred maintenance means that we could see other instances of broken pipes and more wastewater into the Potomac? And does there need to be an investment in the infrastructure to check and make sure that these pipes, that something like this doesn't happen again?
Yeah, you are correct and completely on point. I'm trying to make that analogy back to the tip of the iceberg here, but that there is a huge problem, not just here, but in the DC region, we have a lack of a drinking water backup. Fortunately, this horrible catastrophe happened just a couple of miles downstream from our drinking water pipes that intake that. But if it impacted them, we have about 48 hours of drinking water here. Imagine if this happened, all of that sewage in there right before that ice storm. I couldn't move my car for more than a week because I have street parking. And imagine the situation if people couldn't get clean drinking water. So we should take this as a sign of how we need to do things differently and really invest in that infrastructure. People talk about roads and maintenance for those all the time, like go through Rock Creek Parkway right now, right? It's holes in it all over the place, but we're not thinking about that same vulnerability with our water. And we need to do that because we're at risk here, and investing more money, more time, more maintenance in thinking about this is really gonna help us down the road.
When we talk about restoration and how the process of the water gets cleaned, for example, and post all of the rupture fixing, if you will, right? How does that look? For the viewers at home may not know what this process looks like. How do officials and organizations go into the water and the surrounding areas to clean it, to make sure that it is going to be salvageable for years to come? Or do the rivers and waters, is there some type of natural occurrence that happens as well where it cleans out the sewage and bacteria?
So really the best way to do this is just help the river and its natural systems to clean it out. So right now, for obvious reasons, with all of the work that's been needed on site, heavy equipment, it was beaten down all the vegetation. It's muck all over the place. You've got the raw sewage mixed in with mud and mess, right? So that won't be good for the river. That needs to be fixed.
Right.
But it needs to be fixed not just by, sort of installing technology, but rather replanting and putting back in the native vegetation there that kind of filters things that go into the river. And the same happens for the bottom of the river too. So all of the debris there and really just the solids of the sewage, it's kind of a little gross,
Yeah.
but it settles out and is on the bottom right now. Going in and extracting it is probably going to cause more harm than just helping it to process it. So there are things like freshwater mussels, in fact, they act like oysters where they eat the pollution.
Oh, I didn't know
so
that. Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
Yeah, and it's not the type we eat. So you don't
Got
have
it.
to be
Okay, all
worried that
Just making sure.
you don't have to be worried the ones you're eating are taking care of the sewage in the bottom of the Potomac River. So it's just natural occurring. But we could place them there and they'll help sort of eat that sewage and restore it to natural conditions. So I think aiding the nature is really the way that we're going to want to go with this.
Betsy, if anyone out there is watching and wants to know what they can do to make sure something like this doesn't happen again, besides not flushing flushable wipes, what can they do? Who can they reach out to? And how can they stay in touch with your organization?
Yeah, we actually just worked over the weekend and put up a web page devoted to this issue on our website, potomacriverkeeper.org, and has the most up-to-date of our monitoring as well as ways you can get involved and take action. So follow us, go to that page. We can keep you up to date. There are so many things that we can do, including help educate neighbors, friends, and speak to your elected officials. Tell them, hey, you care about this. You don't want raw sewage pouring into your Potomac River.
All right, Betsy Nicholas from the Potomac River Keepers Network, President. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here once again and sharing your expertise.
Glad to be here. Happy to come back.
All right, we're going to leave you with a live picture from Frederick, Maryland, our Fox 5 Skycam up there. A beautiful night in
Warm
Maryland,
night.
a warmer than we've had recently
Thank
night
you,
for
God.
sure. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break. When we come back, Tony P is going to talk about some of the other stories he's been keeping an eye on today. We'll be right back. All clear. Thank you so much. All right, welcome back to the Live Zone Primetime on this Wednesday night alongside Tony P. Tony P's been keeping his eye on some stories,
Yes.
both national,
Good things.
international, local, and in the entertainment and political and
Yes.
business worlds today.
Everything.
So Tony P,
We go
let's
around the
dive
world.
right
Is that what
in.
that's what we should call it? Around the world with Tony P.
Around the world with
Again,
Tony
kind of
P.
like, it's the like Al Roker used to do. Here's what's happening around the country. No, it's the other way. Here's what's happening in your neck of the woods. Here's what's going around the country.
Loves referencing and hanging out with people from.
Would
the
you stop?
competitors.
Okay, all right, okay. It's a reference from years ago.
Get to
Okay,
work.
all right, okay. Federal agents today executed search warrants at the home and offices of Los Angeles Unified School District Superintendent Alberto Carvalho, marking one of the most significant federal investigations involving a major U.S. school system in years. Agents searched Carvalho's residence in San Pedro and LAUSD headquarters in downtown Los Angeles. Authorities confirmed the investigation is white-collar in nature and not related to immigration enforcement or student policy generally. No arrests were made, and officials have not said whether Carvalho himself is an actual target. The district said it is cooperating fully with the investigation while it remains under a court seal. President Trump used his State of the Union address last night, of course, to frame the upcoming midterm elections as a referendum on immigration enforcement. We talked about that a lot last night, along with economic nationalism and federal authority generally. Advisors today are saying that the White House plans to nationalize House and Senate races around loyalty to Trump's agenda rather than local issues. The strategy includes heavy investment by Trump-aligned super PACs, expanded campaign travel into competitive districts, and pressure on Republican candidates to fully embrace the administration's policies opposed to walking away from the president. Republican leadership believes turnout among core Trump voters could offset historical midterm losses that typically hit the incumbent president's party. We'll see how that strategy works out in the aftermath of the State of the Union address that we covered last night. The administration also is facing renewed scrutiny over the newly released Epstein files. Officials today acknowledge that some investigative materials referencing an allegation involving Donald Trump were not included in the latest public document release. Administration lawyers said the material remained sealed because it involved unverified claims and protected witness information. Critics argued the omission raises transparency concerns, and President Trump has denied wrongdoing and has never been charged in any connection to Jeffrey Epstein. Also, with the Epstein files in mind, former Nebraska Senator Bob Kerrey resigned today from leadership of the nonprofit Monolith after renewed questions about his past interactions with Jeffrey Epstein and those resurfaced communications following these document disclosures. Kerrey said stepping down would prevent the organization from becoming a distraction, and this dovetails with today's resignation of Larry Summers, former president of Harvard, from his teaching duties at the university. Cuban border guards shot and killed 4 people and wounded 6 others after a Florida-registered speedboat entered Cuban territorial waters and exchanged gunfire with security forces near the island's north coast. Cuban officials said passengers on the boat fired first, injuring an officer before authorities returned fire. 1 person was detained, and U.S. officials said they are working to determine whether any Americans were involved as the investigation continues. In the world of business, NVIDIA today reported another massive earnings surge driven by demand for artificial intelligence chips. The company posted record quarterly revenue and reported roughly $43 billion in profit, including $120 billion in fiscal year profit as well, fueled by explosive spending from major technology companies building data centers across the world. Executives said demand for advanced AI processes continue to exceed supply, reinforcing NVIDIA's dominance in the global semiconductor market. Chris, when I was a kid, they were about video games. You used to see their name on the Madden NFL cartridges. Now you're seeing them all over Wall Street. Also in business, this is going to affect us here at Fox 5, where we have a Panera right down the street from us. Panera Bread introduced its first national value menu, allowing customers to mix and match select sandwiches, soups, and salads at reduced prices. This move comes as fast casual chains are competing aggressively recently for price-sensitive customers amid persistent food inflation. Sadly, we have awful news to report. Actor Martin Short is mourning the death of his daughter, Catherine Short, today, whose passing has now been confirmed as a suicide. Family representatives said they had been privately struggling. She had been privately struggling prior to her death with mental health, and the family asked for privacy while grieving, as tributes from friends and members of the entertainment community have poured in today, describing her as deeply creative, compassionate, and closely connected to her father's life and career as well. In the world of music, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame announces 2026 nominees, including Wu-Tang Clan, Billy Idol, Mariah Carey, Phil Collins, Oasis, and one of my favorite groups of all time, New Edition, the truly one of Boston's finest. This is setting up one of the most genre-diverse ballots in years, Chris. And Luther Vandross as well is on that list, another legend from the 70s and 80s. So I am very excited. I hope all of them get in because there's no bad choices here, truly. There's nobody. And you know what? We've had a lot of Hall of Fame issues when it comes to football recently. Let's make sure the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame does it right and makes up for it. All right, done with the rant. And finally, for our Black History Month Spotlight of the Day, residents in Decatur, Alabama are working to preserve the history of Old Town, a once thriving black neighborhood largely demolished during mid-20th century urban renewal projects and gentrification. Community leaders are documenting churches, homes, and family histories to ensure the legacy that of residents displaced during redevelopment remains part of the city's historical and economic record. And looking at cities like Decatur, and of course we have Black Wall Street in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area that was destroyed and damaged by white nationalist terrorism, basically. We've seen a lot of the erasure of black history through these incredible cities that they built over the years in post-enslavement era, as well as through Reconstruction, that were destroyed by the KKK and horrible acts of white nationalist violence. So, Chris, we just hope that these cities get the recognition that they deserve because so many people put so much effort to building those great cities over the years.
No question. I want to go back to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for a minute. This list, like you said, stacked.
Loaded.
The Black Crowes, Mariah Carey, Melissa Etheridge, Billy Idol, Iron Maiden, New Edition, Pink, Shakira, Jeff Buckley, Phil Collins, Lauryn Hill, In Excess, Joy Division / New Order, Oasis, Sade, Luther Vandross.
Sade.
Wu-Tang Clan they may just have been below the bar here a little bit.
Oh, they're in it. No,
Let
it's
me see. Yeah, there they are. See, Wu-Tang Clan
very
right there.
smooth operator of you.
Tony P. By the way, I have heard Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing. Never mind, I can't say that. But I do know that they are for the kids. If you have to drop one, you've got to drop one, Tony P.
Come on.
One won't make it. Who's it gonna be?
I think it's going to be Pink because
no,
because Pink is more recent, okay, is still an incredible artist doing great work. I think if she's pushed back a year, something like that, that's fine because you have so many great, Sade, she belongs in that list. She is a legend across the board. Her music expands all types of genres.
The Black Crowes, I could take them or leave them.
Really?
Honestly.
I mean, again, I love Pink. I love
listen,
Pink.
I know
but
people love. I know
it's
people
a timing
love them,
thing
but
for me.
It's just not my thing. Should they change the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to the Music Hall of Fame?
Oh.
Because you can make the argument that more than half of these artists are not rock and roll.
I think potentially because artists now are engaging in cross-genre work. So, for example, we're seeing, Boz Scaggs, one of my favorite artists, was jazz and R&B. You have Beyonce going, into country as well and really thriving in all of her genres. And she's on rock and roll as well. So I think with that, not new invention, but I think it's expanding to a lot of artists. They're going to different genres. And rock and roll isn't exactly a main thread by itself anymore. You're not seeing a ton of rock and roll bands that are making it more mainstream.
Here's
so I think
where
making
you
it
run into the problem.
Purely music's a good idea.
I think they should because it should be open to all genres.
Right.
But when you open it up to all genres, then you are also opening it up to classical. You're opening it up to opera. You're opening it up to what is it? The Himalayan throat singing or whatever.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So like it's a slippery slope. So I understand maybe why they haven't done it yet. Because this is also, and arguably, a very, Western Hemisphere music type of a thing.
Right.
Type of a thing. You're not getting into Afro beats as much. You've got hip hop, but there are so many genres, reggaeton type of a thing, not necessarily making the cut now, but who knows years from now. I could go on. We could spend the
Hall
rest
of Famers
of the show
like
talking about
Paul
this.
Simon and Neil Diamond leverage
Diamonds on the soles of his shoes with
and
Ladysmith, Black Mambazo. We're going to take a quick break.
African music was in
at
that.
the Wharf, our Fox 5 Sky camera on this clear Wednesday night. When we come back, we're talking one of my favorite subjects, Love is Blind.
Ooh, yes.
Former DC cast member Alexandra Bird joining us to talk about the current season, season 10, and what she makes of it. We'll be right back.
Why Love is Blind.
I love you so much.
Marry me.
This is crazy. Getting married. I mean, how much time do you have? Like, could this be a therapy session? I'm here to find my love, my light.
This is me.
Oh, Breezy, I've got a bone to pick with you. That was part of the trailer for season 10. Season 10, believe it or not, of Love is Blind. 2 new episodes dropped today, Tony P. Next one drops March 4th. First, though, earlier today, though, I got a chance to catch up with a former Love is Blind contestant who was on the DC season of Love is Blind to talk not only about what that experience is like, but what this group of Ohio singles is now going through. We also broke down some of her favorite couples, who she's rooting for, and more. Take a listen.
Having done this and made it through to the other side, what is the experience like for you watching a group of people in a new season?
Every season, I mean, this is the 3rd season since my season has come out, and every season has been a little bit less traumatic, I would say. I will say the first time I watched it, I was like, whoa, because I used to be a big Love is Blind fan before going on, and then now I barely watch it. Like, I'll watch it like almost every episode, but I won't watch it as intently as I used to. I have a whole new perspective on it.
Okay, well, that was going to be my next question, that new perspective. Is it partially because going in, based on your experience, is how much of what you see is genuine versus how much of it is now people knowing what it can lead to, people kind of going in for slightly selfish reasons?
Well, I can speak for myself and the girls, because I can't really speak too much for the guys, as I didn't get to know them, only the person I was dating. But I will say that we were pretty genuine, and a lot of us really were going in there to like get married. But of course, like, it is still a show, so there are conversations that are set up. There are, certain topics that are suggested. So it's like, and of course the dates are set up too. So a lot of the things that we participated in, I think it could have changed the direction of our relationship with whoever we were with, because would we have actually gone on those dates, or would we have actually talked about those specific topics as much as they asked us to? I think that bit of an influence definitely affects like whatever the relationship direction goes.
Okay, so before we dive into this new season, season 10, set in Ohio, which we know Nick Lachey probably had some influence on with his Ohio roots. You may not have found your husband in your season, but it seems like you have found a great group based on your recent Instagram post. It looks like the Pod Squad's still going strong.
Pod Squad is still going strong. We still very much have our group chats, and we definitely talk to each other at least weekly.
So, getting down to business, what are your thoughts on this particular season so far overall?
I think the season is actually really good. The one thing that kind of threw me off is that they did take 7 couples, I believe, that got engaged, which of course in the past they've done 6 or 5. But with the 7th, and which seems like the strongest, they didn't focus on them, like Vic and Christine. Why are we not getting more footage of them? Because they're definitely giving Lauren Cameron, Brett and Tiffany, like they're giving very solid longevity, like no problems. Like I would love to dive deeper into like their connection more than some of the other ones, just because they look like they're actually gonna be together.
Yeah, I'd be very curious to, after the fact, kind of get more fan reaction to know whether fans are more invested in some of the like drama, or if they want to see these actual genuine human connections. Because, my wife and I watching this have had the exact same thought. And I know a lot of people on the internet have had the same thought as well. They didn't get to go to Mexico. They had to go to Malibu. The camera crew didn't follow them. And a lot of it was self-shot. And I'm pretty sure they didn't even get set up with their own apartment. I know Netflix has said it was budgetary issues. They only budget for 6 people, but a lot of people have also pointed out, okay, now you've got the rights to a lot of new music. It's not that kind of Netflix jingle that we had in the past. We're getting some actual bangers, so maybe you should have reinvested that money somewhere else.
You literally took the words out of my mouth, because I thought the exact same thing. I was like, I know they had said that to us because we had 7 couples that got engaged and only 6 of us were sent, because they didn't send Brittany and Leo. However, it's like they're screaming budget and they scream budget to us. But yeah, the music, the production, like they're getting way more I want to say expensive dates and like I just feel like there's more money put into production this year, which is great because that means the show's doing great. However, I'm just like, well, how much more did you save by sending them to Malibu versus Cancun? And then what, did they just not send a production crew out there? And I don't know, I just feel like it just doesn't make any sense to me. But I mean, hey, they're saying budget. Okay, cool. But maybe it was also like timing. Like they didn't have the bandwidth to like send a whole crew out there as well. That now that would have made more sense, but I don't know.
You mentioned Vic and Christine. So are there any couples besides them maybe that you have been rooting for so far?
I
I mean, the face kind of said it all.
okay, so like so Amber, I like Amber and what's his name, Josh?
Jordan.
Okay, Jordan, sorry. I like them. I think they're the second most promising couple. But just something still feels a little off. It feels slightly forced to me. But I don't know. But everybody else, no. I think everybody else should just date more. I think Alex is giving me a bad rap right now. The Alexes, like the same name. Alex and Ashley, like they went into it horribly. They went into it with all about sex. So I feel like they were never going to last. And also, does he have a job and does he have somewhere to live? I think those are questions that need to be answered. If you don't have those things, I don't think you should be worried about getting married right now. And the way that her dad interrogated him was actually perfect. Who else? There's Connor and
Breezy.
Breezy. I did like them. I did. But I think after the whole debacle of what Chris and hers conversation was, it kind of just made me look at her a little bit different because I feel like she entertained that a little too long. And I feel like she wants men to fight for her. And it's not about that. Like you already had somebody choose you. Now stick with it. I did like Emma and who's the guy that Emma's with?
Emma and Mike. So I do want to I kind of want to dive into some of these individual couples a little more, if that's okay. Yeah. So you mentioned Amber and Jordan. Amber obviously has a child. That was one of Jordan's initial deal breakers. But once he felt like he got to know her, he felt like maybe that was something he could get over. How much, obviously that's a major part of someone's life. When you're having those conversations in the pods from your own experience, how much do those conversations about what this future could actually look like realistically come up?
They come up a lot. They give us a book. So the book that we are writing in the back of the book are a ton of suggested questions. And each day they will give us a book based off like finances, fantasies, our dream life, or our job, our career, just all the things. And so we're able to really ask very in-depth questions. And it's really helpful. And, we're in there for hours. So sometimes we spend a lot more time on certain questions than others. But I feel like when going into the pods, a lot of people have their certain non-negotiables. And I feel like some non-negotiables you just have to stick with. And yes, as he said, like that was his non-negotiable. And then now he's like kind of changing. I don't know. I just feel like that's something you have to be really careful about because once a child's involved, it gets really like messy if you like decide to not be fully in. Has more damage. So
yeah, we kind of saw that last season as well in Colorado.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So we talked with Jessica and Chris. Obviously, their storyline, the way this last seemed to come up in the pods, he didn't seem to have an issue with it when Jessica said no. And then they get outside of the pods. He says he's not attracted to her. Attraction is a real thing. It can be understandable that maybe physically they're not your type right away. When that screen opens up, what does it feel like? What kind of... I'm struggling to kind of find the right words. What is the initial reaction when you see the person? Is it instant excitement versus disappointment? Is it putting the connection with the face to the voice and everything you know about them? And how much was it? I mean, he's getting a reputation as public enemy number one, but is it okay for him to feel that way and speak his own truth to a certain extent that he wasn't attracted to her?
Okay, so first to answer the first part where when you do the reveal, I think where people get a little thrown off is when they already have set expectations of what a person's going to look like. And they kind of mess that up when they start to ask in the pods, oh, trying to get an idea of what that person looks like, but also with just assumptions, with voice, trying to match a voice to a face and certain characteristics. I think he probably thought she looked a certain type of way. I personally think he's just attracted to blondes. She's gorgeous. Um, she's not out of shape whatsoever. So that whole the whole Pilates thing, it just threw me off. I think, and not to be on his side whatsoever, what he said was diabolical. But I think sometimes people, especially men, might stumble upon when they're trying to describe their perfect like figure, like shape, and they associate it with like a workout routine. And it's like that's not even the best way to describe it. What you just like is a very maybe like slim or athletic build. But I just feel like there's a way to say things, and the way that he was just like, oh, I just want somebody to go to CrossFit every day. And it's just like, what? You want like a very built person? But I don't know. When you see Breezy and Jess next to each other, they're like the same size. So I'm like, I just think he just likes blondes, honestly.
The other thing that felt uh, it only came up between Alex and Ashley, and it only came up when Ashley's dad asked about it, is politics. Politics, obviously, I know we're based here in Washington, D.C., and I know that politics kind of looms over everything more than maybe it feels like it does in other parts of the world. But in today's dating age, for a lot of people, politics can be a major deal breaker. Do you feel like we didn't get enough discussions about politics and how people align? Because that can say a lot about who you are as a person when it comes to your morals and what you kind of plan on living your life like or raising children like in the future.
Um, no, I don't, because I think they curated the show based off of that area. DC, they showed us talking about politics all day, every day, because we are in the nation's capital. So that's an alignment. That makes sense. But with Ohio, I think they talked about it as enough as they probably do in their own town. So
No, that makes sense entirely. Emma and Mike, you said they were one of the couples that you were slightly rooting for, possibly. One of the things that stood out to me for a lot of the couples in the pods was the discussion of wanting to have children, whether or not someone would make a great mom. Obviously, with Emma in particular, it's a big storyline because she's very much on the fence about whether she wants them or not. Mike is going into it knowing that, but also saying he wants kids. And kind of feels to a lot of people like he's hoping she'll change her mind. Can you talk to me a little bit about that aspect of their relationship?
he's definitely hoping she changes her mind. He is going for like, oh, I think I can probably change her mind in like a year or two. I think she's speaking for more of a traumatic reaction just because she's the one that went through the surgeries. And I don't think she wants to put her future child or children through that, which makes complete sense. Um, but I think it was very telling seeing both the families' reactions. Like you saw his family, and they were just very much kind of like in disgust. It seemed like how why would you not want kids? Like how dare you? And then quickly, of course, change that. I think just like try to seem like reasonable. But I think they're also thinking what he's thinking. And with her family, the sister kind of came on a little strong with just saying like, oh, but I mean, if she doesn't want kids, don't force her. And I'm just like, I don't think that's what he's saying, but I think we all can agree that he is not compromising on that whatsoever. And I think they shouldn't even go down the aisle if she is still like on the fence of it, because it's just not fair to both of them.
Oh, I agree entirely. All right, Alex and Ashley. Alex, like you said, he's kind of a close runner up behind Chris right now in terms of public enemy number one. Does it feel to you like he manages to say so much without saying anything at all?
I feel like he is very, very rehearsed. I feel like a lot of these questions have been asked and he is just running through them so easily because he already knows what to say. It doesn't feel authentic. I feel like at first I feel like he was running away from his problems or something, or he was trying to search for happiness in different places. But then I realized his mom's the same. So I think he just thinks that's normal. And so I really, I appreciate how like honest, I feel like he is honest on who he is, like, but I just think it's kind of just like, are you really saying that? But I think he really means everything that he's saying though.
I also feel like he maybe has a little eye on Brittany at the same time after some of those
Yes,
conversations that we saw in Mexico. Brittany and Devontae are an interesting couple to me because and I'm only speaking for myself here. I think she had a different image in her head, speaking to, kind of building that in your head of what Devontae may have looked like or, who he was. Do you feel like they have a genuine connection or a shot?
No. I think she's hoping it works out more than he does. I mean, she said it herself. She said she feels like she likes him more than he likes her. And I feel like he keeps making excuses on certain things, but I just feel like when you're secluded with just the guys for so long, and he's like not even, he doesn't seem like he's even sexually attracted from her, especially when he wasn't around women for like 2 to 3 weeks. It's like now you have the time to be with your woman and she wants to be with you, and now you're turning her down. I don't know. It's just kind of throwing me off. I don't think he's sexually attracted to her. I think he's trying to force himself to like her. He's trying to like force it all the way to the end. But ultimately, if they go down the aisle, he's definitely saying no.
Yeah, and it seems like a little bit of an introvert sometimes, which
Yeah.
I have to imagine is tough when you're in an environment like that with a lot of big personalities and cameras everywhere.
Yeah, you can be, but I feel like he's different around the guys than he is around his own fiance. So it's throwing me off.
All right, so let me ask you one final question on this topic. Do you believe love is blind?
No. After my experience, no, absolutely not. I think there's a lot of things that need to be seen before anybody makes a final decision. I mean, attraction is a big thing, and I think you can fall in love with somebody without fully being attracted to them, but then there's just other things that come into play. So,
So having done this and now being here in DC and being a recognizable personality, how has dating changed for you?
it's been weird. I tend to date guys that have never watched the show. If you've watched the show, most likely not going to date you just because I've had weird situations where guys will talk to me about the show and it just automatically gives me the ick and I just want to run away. So,
Tony P, 5 seconds left in the show. That is how a producer
Love is
times
not
it.
blind.
Thank you for joining us.
It's not blind.
Fox 5 News is 10 is next.